Hey there, welcome back friends. In our last video we were successful in modifying the status code, and we were making use of this enumerated list which returns the status code as 201. Let me show you real quick. So in here, if we try to expand this a little, this will return the status code as 201 created, which is nice, good enough. Now friends, in our last video we were simply returning a response as OK, and media type was text underscore HTML. Rather, text underscore plain would have been a better option. So this was our indented method in our last video. Now moving forward, let us update the entity. So first of all, we will return the entity. The response would be not text, rather it would be a object of brand type. So let me return the brand object, and as this is a object, we will make use of application underscore JSON media type. Here we go. Alright, so this looks good to me, and now first of all let us try to run this application and let us try to understand what would be the outcome, what would be the result when we try to add a row in the database table. Alright, the application is up and running. Let us navigate to Postman, and in here let us quickly modify our URL and let us post some data, raw data. First of all, let us get some data. So in here, if we check, we have some data already feeded in, and now we will try to add some information, add a row in the database. Here we go. And we will add the brand with brand ID, for example, 6. The type would be JSON and content type would be application JSON. Alright, here we go. So we were successful in adding the data in the database, and the status was 201, which is perfect. But the issue is with the response. The ID for brand 6, brand name, is 0. Whereas if we convert this method to get and try to get a updated list, indeed the ID is 33. So when we are adding the information and when we are trying to display the information on Postman, the application is not fetching properly. This object doesn't have the proper ID. The reason being, our entity class has a issue. In here, in order to fetch, in order to tell Hibernate to fetch and update the brand ID automatically, we need to do something in here. So first of all, a small little update needs to be done. In here, we need to make use of a annotation which is generated value. This specify Hibernate that this brand ID would be automatically generated. Likewise, there could be multiple type of generation. As a result, we need to also give the strategy. So the strategy would be definitely, let me show you, identity. This particular ID is nothing but the identity of the entire row. As a result, the generation type would be identity. Now this is nice, and this particular annotation must be also used when we are making use of product entity. Again, that would be a good thing to add. Let me copy this particular part. Let me also add in the annotation for product entity class. Alright, so now when we have added this annotation in our entity class, what happens is whenever we try to add some data in the database, the setter of this particular field will be called automatically, and the generated ID would be automatically set for this variable. Let me show you how this will work. So in here, for example, we again try to add a yet another brand with name brand 7, for example, and try to add this in the database. This will definitely take a couple of seconds, and here is the output. Now the information is properly fetched, so this is nice. All right, now moving forward, let us talk about location header. So in here, first of all, let me hit enter in here and let me comment out this part, and let us check the methods which are available. Now friends, this particular part, adding the status code manually, then adding the entity, then building the response, is good enough, but we have a shortcut in here. If we check the methods, there are methods like accepted, which will return what? This will return accepted response. Likewise, we have created method which will return 201 status code, and it will create a URI location as well. Likewise, we have no content method which will return no content status code for the response. So there are like shortcuts. In our case, as we are making use of creation process, we are adding information, we can make use of this created method. What this method will do? This will set the status to 201 and it will also return a URI location. Now we need to definitely handle the URI accordingly, and once we provide the location, we can definitely also add in the entity and we can build the process. Let me show you. Here we go. Now what is this location? Location is nothing but a URI variable. So in here, first of all, let us create a URI variable with the name of location. Here we go. Let me add in the required package. Alright. Now friends, what is URI and how we will get the URI? In here we can either make use of a string and directly create a URI using a string. Now there needs to be a conversion from a string to URI, but that is a tedious thing. In our previous videos, we have seen a very useful annotation which is context. In these kind of scenario, context can be useful. So let us make use of context, and in here we have URI info, and for example we will make use of URI as a variable name. Now we have this URI as a variable name. Using this variable we can initialize this location. This would be interesting. So in here we can type in URI dot get absolute path. And what is this path? What is this absolute path? This path is nothing but path of this method. As of now, in here there is no path annotation. As a result, this particular location will contain the path which is based on this class. The path is /showroom/brands, right? So now if we try to add a new data, a new row in the database, the response will also have a yet another additional header value which would be additionally set by this response, and that would be location. Let me show you by adding a sample brand in our database. So here is Postman. Let me check the list. There are multiple dummy useless brands added in here which we will remove in our next video. But let us add a yet another value with a name as brand 9, for example. Everything is set, alright, which is nice, and the data has been added. The interesting thing is, if we check the headers now, initially if we check the headers, it will return only content type, content length, date, but now it is also returning this location, and this location is set by us. This is great, and this is returning the absolute path. Alright, so in our next video we will check more interesting things related to JAX-RS, and later down the line we will also check something known as URI builder. So something interesting is coming up, and this is it for today's video, where we were successful in setting up the location header. Alright, so this is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day and take care.